Now, ending over a week-long strike, South Korea's truckers headed back on the roads today after the union and the transport ministry reached a tentative late-night agreement. The nationwide strike crippled ports and industrial hubs across the country, disruption production for manufacturing and tech giants like Hyundai, Samsung and POSCO. The disruption also resulted in delayed cargo shipments from autos to cement and alcohol, costing South Korea more than $1.2 billion in lost output and unfilled deliveries. The South Korean government has agreed to extend the truckers' minimum freight rates and continue discussing expanding a guarantee of minimum pay for carrying cargo to cover additional products. The end of strike also boosted stock markets, with shares in some affected industries rising in early trade as investors responded positively. Shares in Hyundai Motors gained as much as 4%, while shares in Hanil Cement rose as much as 7%. The strike had been an early test of the new government of President Yoon Suk-yeol and had further stretched global supply chains already disrupted by China's COVID-19 curbs and Russian invasion of Ukraine. Steelmaker POSCO, a unit of POSCO Holdings, has halted work at some plants on Monday due to a lack of space to store unshipped products, and Korea Zinc said its shipments of sulfuric acid, a key raw material of semiconductors, are back on track. Let's talk more about this. WION correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is live with us from Tokyo. Phoebe, good to see you. What do you make of this recent development?
Well, the agreement between the truckers and the transport ministry is very fragile. It's a tentative, last-minute, late-night agreement, but it does look like things are going to be moving again. Truckers have gone back to work, as there has been this agreement that the minimum pay, the guaranteed safe rates, as they were called, introduced during COVID-19, they were due to be in place to cover minimum payment for freight up until December, and that's going to be extended. And now this can also potentially be extended to other products. Discussions are going to be going forward, and the Transport Ministry has also said that they will discuss expanding fuel subsidies. So there is still a lot to be discussed, but really this is an important development in that industrial ports and hubs were really crippled during this 8-day strike, and just some figures from the South Korean government, it's believed that the industry lost $1.2 billion in unfulfilled deliveries, for example, and lost output. And there have also been, as well as, of course, major players, the auto industry, cement, steel. All of these companies have not been able to deliver due to these blockages, but there have also been voices from smaller business owners pointing out that this is just less than 2 months since COVID-19 restrictions were lifted in South Korea, and so the economy remains in a very fragile position.
Phoebe, the strike has been looked at as an early test of the new government of President Yoon Suk-yeol. How do you assess that?
Certainly, it is being viewed as an early test for Yoon Suk-yeol, as he is a political novice. He's new to the scene, decided to run to office, and he only holds a narrow, well, he doesn't hold a majority with his party in Parliament. So his position is a little tenuous, but it's believed that really this strike could distract from his agenda, and he's got 2 major issues that he's having to tackle currently. Now, number one is inflation in South Korea. It is soaring, reaching consumer prices for April hit a 13.5-year high. And with these rising prices, you've got growing discontent among the general population. And then the other is, of course, a security concern with recent missile launches from North Korea, and it's believed that Pyongyang is ready to conduct potentially a nuclear test, which would be its first since 2017. And so Yoon has been discussing in his recent summit with US President Biden ways to deal with South Korea's neighbor and also strengthen cooperation with Japan. It looks like they will be continuing and strengthening trilateral cooperation. So with these two issues, really Yoon has not wanted to get too embroiled in this domestic dispute, and he's also taken a very hardline stance against unions on his campaign trail, calling their members troublemakers. So he's really tried to take a step back, saying it's for management and the unions to sort out. But of course, as observers pointed out, that any long-term strike has some negative impact on the administration. So if the dispute flares up again, it does represent certainly a point of risk for President Yoon.
Phoebe, finally, what is the South Korean government doing to avert future strikes like this one?
In terms of a future strike, so they are continuing the discussions with the trade unions, and a lot, as I said earlier, remains up in the air. The main question is whether they will be extending fuel subsidies and how that will play out, and whether they will also guarantee that these minimum wage will cover other products. And given that inflation is soaring across the country, this represents a big challenge. But the large proportion of these truckers who have been striking are self-employed. So they're really looking for some kind of guarantee and support from the government going forward. And how that plays out, that's for negotiations over the coming weeks.
Phoebe Amoroso will have to end it there. Thank you very much for your inputs today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.